I'm ready. We'll call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Director Escalante?
Here.
Director Vasquez?
Present.
Director Grajeda?
Here.
Director Chacon? Director Gedney?
Here.
Director Hawkins? Director Aceituno? President Apodaca?
Here. Director Vasquez, lead us please in the invocation and direct.
That would be Grajeda.
Grajeda. Leads in the
Okay.
Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us bow our heads. Thank you, Lord, for the many blessings of life, family, and loved ones. We thank you for giving us another day and allowing us to come and do the great work that we do here at Central Basin on behalf of the community. Please bless our families, our employees, our constituents, and in this we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Would you place your hand over your heart, follow after me? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public comments and presentations.
We have no public comments or presentations at this time. And if it please the board, I'd like to go to items 4 through 9 and then go back to item 3.
Okay. So moved.
Good morning, directors.
Good morning.
Okay. Yes, good morning. To start, for item number 4, the slide will show what portion of the district's recycled water distribution system this item is addressing. This map and the agreement are attached to this item as Exhibit A and B. This section of recycled water pipeline was constructed in the 1990s. We have different diameters of pipeline which are delineated on the slide for you, and you can see in the map legend. We have a range of 6 inches to 24 inches for pipe diameters. This segment of pipeline is located in the cities of Paramount and also in Southgate. And when the pipeline was constructed, it was placed within a portion of property owned by Southern California Edison, or SCE. And at that time, the district entered into an easement agreement with SCE to pay for the right to be within their property, to have the pipeline be under operation and also maintained. The term of this agreement that this item is addressing is for 5 years, and that would be commencing July of this year through June of 2022. Invoices are paid on a yearly basis, and payments do include a 3% annual increase. Staff budget for these costs during the budgeting process each year. And a table in the memo shows what payments will be made to SCE on an annual basis. The last payment to SCE under the existing contract was for $64,289, and this was for fiscal year 16-17. Total cost over the 5-year agreement term will be $351,558.61, and the terms of this contract are non-negotiable. And with any questions so far for this item, for the SCE agreement?
Yeah, I have some questions. Any particular reason why the line was put in an easement from Edison as opposed to in the streets?
You know, Director Grajeda, I don't have that historical information, but I could do a search for you.
No, that's fine. Just wanted to know. Secondly, when is the contract up for renewal? Is it this month, next month?
It's June.
It's in June. It's up for okay.
Yes.
Secondly, what's been the negotiations with Edison to see if this can be reduced? It seems like, just from looking at it for the first time, it seems like a high cost. And what happens in 5 years if Edison says we're not going to renew the contract?
Director Grajeda, we have reached out to SCE, not only for this agreement, for other easement agreements and licensing agreements that we do have with Southern California Edison. The responses that we've received every time was simply that it was non-negotiable. For some of
Who
the...
have you reached out to? What staffing with Edison?
Oh, I could get their names or their titles for you. I don't have that on me at the moment.
Do you know, Kevin?
No, I don't. But I know that when Jackie and I talked about it on a longer term, this is going to be something where if we were going to get it redone, we're going to have to go top down at Edison. Because and we have a similar agreement with LA Water and Power for a very high easement.
Is there any reason why there hasn't been a top-down conversation to address this?
Just time. We have not got to it yet. It's on the to-do list, but...
Regarding the budget that's been proposed this year, how is this proposed in the budget currently that's being proposed? Is it for the $66,000?
Correct, and it's under the line item for leases and easements on the upcoming budget to be approved.
Mr. Chair, since we are going to get engaged in a 5-year extension of an easement, and it is not due until the end of June, it will start in July, right? We need to start in July again.
Yes, correct.
I would like to have a stab at it. I would like to have an opportunity to meet with Edison and see if we can do anything about the pricing structure. Most of the easements that I'm used to seeing granted by Edison is 10 years. Not 5 years. 5 years is a short duration. They don't have any need for this right away that they have. And the amount seems to be a bit more excessive than I'm used to seeing that is offered to government or quasi-government entities.
I welcome that, and part of the issue is that the freeway is expanding, so they have something going with that. So I don't know what it is, but they've already on 3 or 4 different occasions denied us any possible negotiations. So if you have any opportunity like that to do that, we welcome it.
Yeah, I would appreciate that. Thank you very much. I'm looking at the alignment, horizontal alignment. It's on the east side of the river, and I don't think the 710 expansion is going to touch on that. And the 105, I don't think they're going to be doing anything. Anyways, we'll get a chance to review that. I would appreciate that.
Sure.
Yes, Director, we'll set that up.
Thank you.
Are there any more questions?
So, just a quick question. What portion of the pipeline is in the Edison easement? Is that depicted in this?
Yes, the entire portion.
The entire
Shown.
portion?
Everything
Correct.
you're looking at, yes.
Okay, very good. John, thank you for taking...
That's where the nurseries are mostly, right? On
Yeah.
710. You see that right away?
I'm not sure if there's nurseries there, but I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah,
I
that's
could.
Quite a... Thank you.
That's what it is.
So are we then tabling this item?
Yeah, we're tabling it, and
Yeah.
Okay.
the director is looking
Do
into it.
you need a motion to table this item since it's an action item?
I'll move
Do we
that.
need a motion to table this?
Yes, it would be appropriate to table it or to
So the
continue
motion,
this.
the motion
Chair,
by
I'll move
Director
that.
Sui.
I'll move
Director
that.
Sui.
I second it. Roll call.
Director Sui.
Yes.
Director Vasquez.
Yes?
Director Grajeda.
Yes.
Director Chacon. Director Gedney.
Yes.
Director Hawkins.
Yes.
Director Aceituno. President Apodaca.
Yes.
Thank you.
So just to make sure, so we tabled it till the next board meeting in June,
Yeah.
and that's enough time to
And
take action on
within that
that?
time, I'll get with Director Oscuri, and we'll see if we can get any contacts at the highest level there and see if we can do anything about it.
And that's enough time for you to also renew the contract?
Yeah, well, if not, we'll bring it back to the board.
Okay.
Yeah, the same contract.
Yeah.
And if not, we'll see if we can, if something happens, we'll see if we can renew it a year at a time if this negotiation started. But
Yeah, one last comment. I think, Kevin, that you can let them know that public agencies feel that this is a little on the high side and that you need more people to attend that meeting. I agree with the director. It's like, I thought it was a little on the high side, excessive, and 5 years seems to go by very quickly. And what happens if they deny it? So I'm looking at 25, 30 years, to tell you the truth. But this is a permanent installation.
They usually have a standard, and their standard is 10 years. That's what, I got some right away with them, and 10 years is a standard. That's.
No, and frankly, we have a similar issue with LA Water and Power, so if we can start.
Okay.
It's on our to-do list for next year, so it's good to get a head start on it.
Okay, thank you.
That's it. Thank you.
I'm item number 5 as well.
Okay. So we're going to item 3 now?
If we continue with just the items 5 through 9, they'll go quick.
Okay. Hello again. I'm
Okay.
going to provide an information item for item 5. This item will be very brief. We wanted to notify the board that staff are coordinating discussions right now with Liberty Utilities about extending their 2 existing contracts, and this is for their operations and maintenance agreements for the recycled water distribution system. Both contracts are set to expire on July 15th of 2017. The current schedule for the O&M RFP, which is the very next item, will require a time extension and value increase for both contracts, and this is to allow us to complete the RFP process and also allow for a transition period should a different contractor be selected through that process. Staff are working to solidify an extension to the end of September at this time, and so we're still in the works with coordinating with Liberty, and we hope that we'll have a meeting confirmed by tomorrow, and we will bring more information as we get it to the committee and to the board. And that concludes my update, unless you have any questions.
Nope.
No?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Item 6.
Yes, item number 6 is also my item, directors. This will also be a very brief update, and this is on the request for proposals for operations and maintenance of the district's recycled water distribution system. Staff have currently gone through multiple iterations of the RFP, and this is with the help of our CMAC and Associates who developed the content. The RFP has been reviewed and approved by legal counsel. At the time this memo was due, the RFP had not yet been finalized. The final version of the RFP has now been posted to the district's website and also emailed to 6 contractors thus far. And briefly going over the main changes that were made between the previous version provided and the finalized version, those are: number 1, the removal of the bid bond requirement. We still have a performance bond requirement. Number 2, the term was addressed in more detail to add a 5-year extension option, and this is beyond the initial 5 years with an annual performance evaluation. And the last one was we added additional details regarding the district's asset management requirements. And so currently we have proposals due on June 16th, and staff plan to have a recommendation before the board in July, and staff will be providing updates on the RFP process as this moves forward as well. And that concludes this update, unless you have any questions.
Who did you send it out to?
Okay, I'm going to try to remember offhand. Liberty and Cal Water for sure. We have Severn Trent, and we have another 3 that I cannot recall offhand, but I can get those names for you after the board meeting if you'd like.
Yeah, I'd like to know that before the meeting's over.
Okay.
Thank you.
What's the work that's involved with maintaining the distribution system? With maintenance and operation, I guess whatever work is called for in this contract.
They are available, and they being Liberty Utilities, on a 24-hour basis. And so a lot of what they do is they visit our existing facilities, our pump stations. They maintain the pumping equipment there, our chemical facilities there. They order chemicals for us as well. They mark dig alert requests, and that's when another agency is looking to locate where our lines are located. They'll mark those in the street. They manage any sort of repairs, emergency leaks, breakdown of equipment, things along those lines. It's a rather large scope of work, and I can get details on that for you if you'd like.
I'm just curious. I wanted a general overview of what exactly, do they go out there daily? Is there a staff? Do they have a dedicated team
They
of
do.
people? If so, how many?
Okay, they do have a dedicated contact person who sort of oversees the team. They do have rotating staff members, but we do have regular, crew members that are out there on a daily basis, and I can get the exact number that they have on any one day for you as well.
So they monitor it every day?
They do.
It's every day.
Kevin, in the future, this is a huge contract, and you bring it before the board. I think the board should know who the contract is being sent to, just as an FYI.
Oh, yeah, and again, this is our contract, which should require that we post it and that we distribute it to any vendor who has signed up. The 6 that she's talking about, Jackie will have at the end of the 6 that we send it to are people that our consultant had identified during what we call the pre-proposal process as people who had expressed an interest.
Okay.
So we'll get to that.
So you might have more people that ask to get on that.
Yes, we don't just send it to the 6. This is sent out to to the whole universe of potential bidders on it. The 6 are ones that we specifically had identified as expressed an interest.
Okay.
And Jackie actually has that, you have that information, you can pull it with me.
I can pull it up right away, actually.
Has there ever been a time when Central Basin staff conducted this work?
No,
They
not that I recall.
can't.
They can't? Oh,
No,
okay.
they can't. This is operations in the field. You have to have a team of people. You have to have trucks and facilities and equipment to monitor this. At one point in time, the agency thought about it, but this was about 3 or 4 years ago before Kevin got here. The agency was thinking about doing that. It takes a lot of resources to do that, Director. And an agency like Liberty or California Water Service or any of these where they have a vast array of employees, trucks, equipment, this is what they do day in, day out. So it's easy for them to do. And they do visit, they have to visit the sites on a daily basis just to make sure that the pumps and everything's working appropriately and monitoring, scanning the SCADA system 24/7. So you'd have to have staff do that, which that's a lot of staff.
Absolutely. Well, it sounds like we're getting a good deal if we have.
One other thing I mentioned is that, well, this is sent out to both public and private and any public entities who are interested. There are public entities that occasionally express an interest, particularly in a system like this.
Are there any more questions?
No.
Okay, thank you.
7, recycled water pipeline projects, environmental reporting.
Good morning, directors. I'll be giving a brief update on the environmental documentation for 2 of the CIP projects. For the La Mirada Recycled Water Pipeline Expansion Project, Aspen Environmental Group delivered the final draft mitigated negative declaration this week. Staff will be distributing the document for public comments next week. Documents will go out for public review, for public distribution for 30 days, and we're expecting to bring it back to the board for final approval at the June board meeting. For the Gateway Cities project, staff provided comments to KS Dunbar and Associates. We're expecting to get the final documents towards the end of May, and then send them out for distribution, for public distribution and comment, and have everything finalized and bring it to the board by the July board meeting. If there's any questions, that's pretty much
Anyone?
everything.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Item 8, discussion of recycled water customer development update.
Hello, directors. I just wanted to give you a brief update on the activities for recycled water customer development. We've been focused on our 3 primary sites, the sites that are scheduled to come online over the next few months. The first one is the GRIP site. It's located near our Rio Hondo pump station. There's a small delay getting our contractors to do the final step there. We're working with them now, and we're going to have this site come on by the end of the month. This site is using recycled water temporarily for dust control. The other one we've been working on is Norwalk Golf Course. Finally, we've been working at Pico Park in Pico Rivera. Central Basin had our contractors go out and extend our line and bring the distribution system up, so that way the water purveyor could place a meter vault. So essentially we brought the recycled water all the way up to the meter, where the meter will go. And that is scheduled to come online in July, but we are finishing up our retrofit plans very soon, and we'd like to get this hooked up as soon as possible. And that concludes my report. If there's any other questions?
Questions, anyone? Thank you.
Thank you.
Connie, since I think we're going to be spending the next hour and a half talking about this, so we can probably just go right to the capital.
I know this is part of the capital, so I could just give an abbreviation on these, or this is part of the capital improvement.
Yeah, I mean, is there anything, because we're going to cover this for the next hour.
We're going to cover it extensively. Okay?
Go ahead, item 9.
But we'll go directly to item 3. Directors, as you recall, at the end of the last workshop, we had finished reviewing the financial information, had gotten to the organizational chart, and I believe that's where we are now. During that last 10 days, we do continue to refine the financial information. For example, I just got notice today that one of our meetings that we pay for, one of the memberships, does not have the increase we projected, so we saved $3,000. So when you get the final budget document, it'll not only contain a report on the budget, but it'll have a sheet of all the corrections that'll be done. So far, they're primarily minor, but 5 to 10,000 on anyone. So the budget is a living document up until the board adopts it. And can we go to the next slide? Okay, just a quick overview of the org chart. Our FTE count right now is 24.83 people. The projected budget does include an increase of 0.75 people. And it's if you look at the FTE count there, primarily the changes is slightly a little bit more hours in finance, an additional intern and a part-time annuitant in engineering and operations, an additional intern in external affairs, and a decrease of an intern in water resources. So there's no full-time person being brought on. We are adding on basically an intern and a part-time annuitant as the additional staff. Now, why do we do that? Because those are efficient ways to accomplish our mission over the next year without significantly increasing our costs. So that's our head count as proposed. Okay. There was a question last time about the historical, how many people we had. And so the next chart will go back, it goes up, bottom up. But in 2011, we had 21 people, and today we have 25. However, in 2011, 12, 13, 14, we also had a firm working that had embedded in our engineering staff 4 people, and we had somewhere between, depending on the year, between 4 and 7 consultants working at any one time as lobbyists in that. We now have one part-time, we have a grant consultant. Lobbyist is the closest thing to a lobbyist or outside consultant we have, and we do not have any contract people from other firms working in our offices. So, and I don't know if that answers the question that came up about the historical FTE count.
Do we have any, other than the grant writers / consultants, do we have any other engineering firms doing continual work for us?
We have engineering firms doing work on all sorts of projects. We have 2 on-call firms that are working on the small projects. We have the firms, 3 different firms working on the Gateway project together with an environmental firm and Desi Alvarez, a management firm. We have Tetra Tech working on the La Mirada project. So we do have consultants. They're project-oriented, not supplements of staff like we used to have in the old days.
Okay, thank you.
They do their project based on the scope and the budget. When it's done, we're done with them. So, any questions on FTE counts proposed? Okay, then let's start on the capital budget. I wanted to start with some definitions first. For ease of analysis, we've broken it into several categories. Large capital projects we've defined as projects over $1 million. The small capital, these tend to be the major engineering undertakings that require significant engineering and environmental analysis. Small capital projects are those less than $1 million. Those are the quick fixes, the ones that we can, close to our facilities, we go out and get with a minimum of expenditure. One of the significant areas we have is repair and replace the maintenance of our system. The operation and maintenance of the system is an area we have been behind on, and we have significant activity proposed in that. We also have customer development, new recycled water service. Even if we don't have to build a pipeline, sometimes we will sometimes help with the on-site service or with the actual meter connection itself. But we capitalize those costs by doing this. And last is our IT and building maintenance. And each year, whether it's hardware or software or building maintenance that we have. So those are the definitions. And again, based on those definitions, we go to the next. Our total CIP budget, if you add everything up, is $12.5 million. Now, before you faint, that it's not quite what it seems. We have the large expansion, the small expansion projects, and I apologize, I don't have my, let me see, I think I found my glasses so I can read it up there. Okay, the small expansion projects are $600 and some odd thousand. The large expansion dollars are $10.8 million proposed. However, those are all contingent upon developing funding. We're not asking you for authorization today for these projects. They're a placeholder until such time, and we're going to be repeating this throughout the presentation today. It's just clear. These are going to be placeholder until such time as we have got the grants or the loans that are proposed for it or the partnerships for each of these projects. And then it'll be brought back for the board to approve the financing and then the project. So we don't get the cart in front of the horse. When you originally saw the budget, we had $830,000 in repair and replace projects. Jackie and I have gone through that with a fine-tooth comb, see which ones have to be done immediately, which ones now. And she'll be going through in detail how she reduced that to $570. Customer development, we had 205 assumed. Again, Jackie will go over how we've got that down to 145. And again, information technology, we're at 63,000 before, and Albert will explain how we got that down to 30,000. So it's just giving you an overview.
Excuse me, Kevin, on that slide,
Yeah, go back one.
what is being proposed? Is 12 million, is that what the proposal is for next year?
No, again, we'll go through what those projects are in the large thing there, but that's the total, if we get the funding for those projects that we would end up expending. Until we get the funding, we're not spending it. I'm not even off, I don't want to confuse neither our board or the financial community that we're asking at this time for an authorization for a capital improvement budget of $12.5 million. I'm simply presenting these as the placeholders of what we are potentially can do if we're successful up in Sacramento with the money or in the partnerships that we're looking at. So,
Kevin, excuse me, is the 10.8 the total value, meaning soft cost plus construction or just construction cost?
Yeah, no, that's total cost.
Total.
And you'll see as we go into, we'll give you a little more detail on these as we go in, but this is just the broad categories to give you an overview. We go to the next one, please. I just want to remind you about sources of funds because it becomes important. District cash flow at the beginning and district reserves at the end are the sources of funds that we control. Proposition 1, the State Revolving Loan Fund, WIFIA, those are the two state ones. WIFIA and USBR are the federal ones, and partnerships will be with local, either private entities or public entities, as the case may be, that we'll be looking at for funding in these projects. And each of these, we do generate cash flow each year. We do have reserves, but we do not have enough to do everything that's on our plate or that we'd like to do. We have to aggressively go after these funds. This is a quick overview of the capital improvement plan by year. It's a 5-year plan, and this shows you, and this year, by the way, We have about 1.7 million shown as having been done in 16-17. I don't think the board realizes that we actually are doing a significant part of that because of the grant money that we got from the Gateway project. That was $900,000 in grant and $1 million in ours, and that'll almost all be done this year. So there'll be $900,000 roughly done on Gateway, I believe, this year. We also have the money we spent on La Mirada to date and the capitalization on other projects. So we have made a significant capital investment this time, and actually for the first time in years. Next year, as we go up, and you can see in each of this as it projects out, the timing of these will shift. This, again, is a living document. As we go through the year, things will change, and each year things will change. Each time it does, we'll formally take it to you to have it formally adopted into the capital improvement plan. Go to the next. Okay, so Lonnie, why don't you go over the large capital projects?
As Kevin stated, these large capital projects are the ones that have the most dollars to be invested in them. Our large capital projects right now, I will just enumerate the ones that are on the slide. The Montebello pipeline is subject to the developer moving forward in Montebello, and that's a 50% our cost on that. It's quite a contribution by the developer of the Montebello Hills development. La Mirada pipeline currently, and you'll see too on the part of the definition, the estimate of acre footage that we hope to realize from these projects, they're very significant. You got a lot of them around 700 acre feet per year, so they're very vital to the expansion of our recycled water program. The La Mirada pipeline, it's currently under design, but it's on hold right now until we secure construction funding for the balance. Gateway Cities is underway, the design is underway, and as Kevin just mentioned, the design process is doing very well. There's a percentage of each one that's in the previous one I stepped up for earlier that shows that the designs for Bell Gardens, Linwood, and Southgate will be done by June 30th. So the design will be green light ready to go. But again, we're trying to secure construction funding, and that will not occur until we secure construction funding. The Downey pipeline, similarly, Pico Rivera is one of our smaller projects. As that one comes up from Downey, actually, into the south side of Pico Rivera, and services some area there. And the and the Maywood pipeline is for almost just one user we have out there in Maywood, the trimethylene gas, which is looking to secure a water supply of about 350 acre feet of recycled water. So it's a very good project. Again, these projects are not moving forward from design until such time as construction funding is available for each and every one of them, and each one will be brought separately as a design project to the board for authorization for those items as they come available.
Lonnie, quick question on that. Looking at these 7 projects, do you have or can you get the current sunk cost for all 7 of those, assuming we do not acquire external funding? Do we have that value?
The sunk cost?
Yes, what we expended to get it ready to go.
We can get that for you, but like Kevin said, one of the bigger ones is the Gateway Cities. It's about $920,000 but that's under the Prop 84 grant.
Okay.
So that's as an example.
We'll get him a table of that.
We'll get you a table on that for the sunk cost, yes.
The biggest one is La Mirada, the others are all fairly minimal.
Right.
And by sunk costs, of course, I mean, if we don't go forward on these, those dollars are
Yeah,
suspended.
they're shelved and the design costs are sitting, yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Lonnie, on this same thing.
Yes, sir.
I see at the end of each one of these, it says external funding to be determined. Do we have a team in Sacramento, DC, or any place else that is looking for this or working on this at the current time?
Yes, sir. We have Townsend Associates. We were up there just last week on this issue, meeting on the state funds for both the Prop 1 and for the State Water Resource Control Board loans and for some other sources that were suggested by DWR. We have not started on the federal research yet.
Any other
Any
questions,
other questions?
President?
Nope.
This is just
Oh, I'm sorry. I can go through this picture. This is, sorry, my book's out of order. This is the La Mirada project. It's a $17 million project, and it's been pared back, well, it has been pared back sizably. However, it has had an increase of a pump station reservoir. It has pared back from about $20 million to $17 million with the cutting back of some of what we'll call the tentacles, some of the pipeline. But it's at about an 85% design right now, and it's in a holding pattern until, again, we're not going to move forward on that with the pipeline or the pump station reservoir until such time as funding is in place.
Now, the black pipe, is that the proposed new pipeline?
That is the proposed new pipeline, yes, ma'am.
And what's the red indicate?
The red one are the ones that should funding become available, it would be expanded to include even those sites.
Oh, okay.
Because there are sites along the way, but this has been pared back, as I said, so as to be more conservative on the design.
Okay, so the pair back is the red,
Yes, ma'am.
and then,
This is just an example of this that we show.
Yeah.
oh, so this is just an example.
Yeah, we just, instead of showing each one, we just want to show for each category an example. For example, this is what a large capital project would look like.
Oh, okay, but these are not the streets it would go down?
Yeah, no, this is the actual routing that's proposed and everything.
Oh,
This
okay.
project is, like I said, the alignment's pretty much designed.
And now there's nothing there?
Not right now.
We don't
No,
have any
No, ma'am.
purple pipe there? And we have customers
Yes, ma'am.
that are already committed to purchasing water?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
do them concurrently as we go out and assess it. It's a team between ourselves, the retail agency, who is surviving, and then if it's not the same, in this case it is, it's not the same, and also the city. So the city of La Mirada and Suburban are partners on this.
Okay, so who would purchase the water from Central Basin? Is it
Suburban Water.
Suburban? Okay, and they've, how many acre feet?
On the La Mirada project, it's about 700 acre feet at this
Wow.
point. It's been pared back from a little over 800, but still at the same time, it's reduced the construction costs considerably, as you can see.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. What are the small projects?
Excuse me, Lonnie, does Suburban have recycled water now?
No, they do have recycled water with Upper San Gabriel
Do they have
Municipal
a
Water District.
recycled water rate?
Pardon me?
Do they have a recycled water
Upper
rate?
San Gabriel, they do. Yes, sir.
So they are taking recycled water now?
Yes, with Upper San Gabriel, they're very familiar with this. But
And-
not from us.
So do they have a rate that they would be charging if this was to go forward?
There would be a rate they're charging. Right now, they're going through a rate case, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, can we go back one? I just want to go through, okay. So recycled water storage, so we would build a storage tank. The Montebello Recycled Water Pipeline Project. Do we have a map of that?
Excuse me?
Do we have a map of the Montebello Recycled Water Pipeline Project?
Yeah, we have maps of all of these projects.
I don't think it's included within our packet here of the Montebello.
Oh, okay.
It's basically up Montebello Boulevard, up toward
We
Whittier.
have them, Director, if you like, we have actually brought back each of the features of each of the maps.
okay.
If you like it, we can bring it up.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think this is a great time to do that since we're talking about funding, and I mean, I'd like to see exactly what these proposals entail.
I'm just trying to press the button back. I apologize.
That was Maywood.
That was it. That passed. That.
Okay.
On Montebello, it's the Montebello Hills specific plan, and it's an improvement to the city of Montebello for the Montebello Hills. The project's been approved by the city council there in Montebello.
Right, this is the project that we, the Hills project.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
it's on hold because of
Right.
environmental issues and the sale of the developer twice in the last year.
So that's the Montebello Recycled Water Propane Project, okay, and the proposed, oh, so that's on hold. But the proposed cost is $3 million?
If it goes ahead.
Yeah, if it goes ahead, yeah. Okay, and this is it here, so it would be that purple pipe, is that,
Yes, ma'am.
yeah, that would be it, okay. So, so the next one is the La Mirada, and you've already showed us that one, that was the map with the black, pipe. And what about the gateway cities? Do we have a map of that? I'm kind of visual, so.
This is one of them.
This is
Okay.
Southgate.
Excuse me, Gateway Cities is 3 separate.
Gateway cities, yeah, okay.
It's Linwood, Bell Gardens, and South.
Right. And so this is,
This is the Southgate
The
alignment.
Southgate,
This is the
okay.
Southgate project along Southern Avenue.
okay, and the proposed is the green.
The green is the proposed, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, that's, okay. So that's Southgate. Do we have the Linwood? Oh, here it goes.
This one shows Bell Gardens,
Which one is what
Linwood.
color?
and Linwood is the one in the green at the bottom.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So that's the green, okay. And, okay, so that's the green and Linwood. And where's Bell Gardens?
On the right-hand side,
In the yellow?
in the yellow.
Oh, I see, so it's the smaller one.
It's very small.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
okay, excellent. And then the Maywood, I've seen the Maywood one. Okay.
Okay.
Go back to the presentation.
This is the large projects. This is the 5-year plan, and it shows the dollar as it spreads out over the 5-year sequencing.
Ah, I see.
But again, each one of these projects, as they move forward, will be brought to the board specifically to the committee, then to the board for specific approval of that project for design and construction.
Okay, thank you.
Lonnie, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Regarding fiscal year 2016-17, the $800,000 set aside for La Mirada, I don't know if we'll spend all that money, but that's coming out of our reserves, is that correct?
Yes, it's being funded from our reserves, yes, sir.
And so we're projecting to spend most of that, and that's just on engineering design?
Yes, and environmental.
Engineering design and environmental.
Which is at 85%, so presumably 85% of it is already spent.
And then that's going to be put on the shelf?
Correct. Until we get such funding, it'll be moving construction forward, yes, sir.
Which means it's going to be put on the shelf?
Yes.
Because we can't move forward with it because we don't have any funding?
Until authorized by the board.
And then the Gateway Cities is $726,000 and some change. How much of that is, grant money, and how much of that is our money, approximately?
Approximately, the grant is, our money is approximately $126,000 and $920,000 for the Prop 1 grant, Prop 84 grant, I'm sorry, Prop 84 grant.
And that's a disadvantaged community grant.
Those are for the 3 disadvantaged communities, Bell Gardens, Linwood, South.
Then I need to say it differently then, because I see $726,000 in front of me. Who's paying the $726,000? Where's that coming from?
That will be a reimbursable grant amount from Gateway Cities back to the district. The district will pay for it, and then there's a reimbursement process through the grant process that comes back to the district.
So right now, that entire $726,000 will come back to the district
Yes, sir.
once the project is, once,
I think a better way to look at it, the grant itself is 1.1 million. 89% of it is paid for by grant, 11% is paid for by the district, including in-kind services. So at any one time like this, it's fair to say that roughly 90% of that will come back to us.
okay.
I think that's the best way to look at it for this one.
Yes.
For me, Kevin, I'm trying to understand what our costs are. And right now, I'm looking at possibly our costs are $726,000 and some change, or they're not. The $800,000 is our cost.
About 80,000 of them.
So I'm trying to figure out what our costs are that we've written in our pocket. Now, one other thing, that's just for, again, design and CEQA, environmental documents.
Correct.
That won't be built because we don't have the funding to build it, is that correct at this time?
No, it will be built when we get the funding to build it.
I thought that's what I just said. That project will not be built unless we find funding.
And I do want to speak specifically just on this project. I think we had a very, very productive meeting in Sacramento when we met with the various departments who really kind of sat down and said, this is how you guys can get this project done. And they explained the process. And although we're still in the process of completing the various portions of the application, I feel very confident that this project is going to be funded and that they're going to help us figure out a way to fund it either through grant funding or through the very low interest rate loans. They were very positive. I mean, they couldn't tell us yes, but they kind of sort of did. So I feel really good about this project.
But I think remember the funding, if we're going just a traditional queue, we're a little behind the 8 ball because this is a disadvantaged community project. We already had a placeholder in place for it when we started.
Right.
We'll be able to jump to close to the top of the queue. So I think we'll probably have a date on when we'll have our money within 3 months.
Yeah, and I think that once we get this Gateway Cities project completed, I really believe that it can be a model project for us that will help us secure additional funding. And I believe that with the meetings that we had with the elected officials, including Assemblyman Rendon's office, Senator DeLeon's office, Senator Tony Mendoza's office, once we can prove that we can handle at this point, after all of the changes that have been made at this agency, that we can successfully carry out a project of this capacity, I know that they're going to want to continue helping us create or expand our local water supplies. I mean, folks are talking about creating local water supplies, and this is how we do it, and building the confidence among those people over the past couple years, I think is going to help us achieve this goal of being the secondary source of water suppliers for this region.
I would like to mention one thing, because you 3 new directors have come on in the middle of the year. Every project that you see that has money spent has been approved by the board. The contracts have been approved by the board, and it was done in full knowledge that we need to secure the funding. There's no smoking mirrors here, it's strictly. Sometimes you have to spend to get it. The requirement to have a completed application is you have to have a shovel-ready project with environmental clear stuff. It's a chicken and egg.
Right.
You guarantee the money before you start.
Kevin, on any of these projects, have we sat down with the stakeholders, i.e. in this case the cities, to figure out if there's a possibility of an alternative funding mechanism, such as revenue bonds or things of that nature?
The 3 cities on the Gateway project have said from the beginning they have absolutely no money to contribute with the design or anything. The La Mirada project and others, if we were to do a revenue bond, it would be ours. We are in no financial condition to do bonds right now because of the precarious nature of our finances over the last several years. We will be in a couple of years. basis so that we could go to the bond market. When we did the refinancing, it was clear that we could not accept additional debt above that.
I mean, in the case of one of these cities, I know that for the past year, they didn't have any leadership. They haven't had any leadership in their water department. So I don't know if there's anyone in there that with ample knowledge to understand various mechanisms of funding available to them. It's easy for them to say, I'm not going to do anything until you give it to me, then I'll figure it out.
The interesting thing to this is, and it's always an issue, when is it our project, when is it?
Right.
We build out the trunks, the baseline, and these are significant trunks. Some of these, and we were lucky, frankly, the gateway cities were actually going out to do this on their own. And we came in to manage it for them, we put a little money in, but it's almost like a gift. It's a beautifully designed, leveraged situation. La Mirada and others are much more difficult because they're not disadvantaged communities. We have to come up with funding. And we are going to be getting creative on that. I still think, for example, where we have like La Mirada, there's a private company. Private companies make money as based on their invested capital. They may want to invest the capital for this facility, so we can make a negotiation there. We just haven't done that yet.
Speaking of the La Mirada project, we are earmarking roughly about $3.6 million for this upcoming year. Design is about 85%, so presumably it's going to take another couple of months to wrap it up, and then you go to bid. Question is, would we be able, if funding is 100% available, let's say July 1 of this year somehow, would we be able to deliver $3.6 million worth of construction in this year?
If it was available July 1, yeah, but we're not going to have funding available probably until January.
So is 3.6 is a reasonable number to deliver?
Yeah, that's really more of a placeholder depending on the construction funding at this point in time.
Assuming we were ready to go January 1, you still have, we probably only be able to do a quarter of a year, so it's probably high by about $1.5 million.
Yeah,
but again, we're not asking for
understood.
Yeah, it would be about $1.5 million because we'd have to start on the construction. It'd have to be the reservoir and pump station, and those are lead items. So, the pipeline will be behind those two.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions on large capital?
What the hell? What is that?
I apologize.
Jeez. Okay. I'm sorry. My button got caught in the key. Loophole. Would you like me to leave the overheads? Okay. Thank you.
Good morning again, directors. Kevin, would you like me to address the 6 contractors or move forward with the small capital first? To answer Director Grajeda's question?
Yeah, please, I'll answer the question right now if you can, Jackie.
Okay. The 6 contractors, which were emailed the operations and maintenance RFP, are Severn Trent, I hope I pronounced this correctly, Veolia, CH2M Hill, United Water, Liberty Utilities, and California Water Services. Okay, so to start off with the small capital projects program, which are for projects that are less than $1 million. The table that you see here on the slide is in the same format on the slide as the same one as you saw for the large capital projects. You will see here the list of small projects on the left-hand side. The next column is for the definition and the estimated recycled water annual consumption in acre-feet per year that Lonnie had mentioned. For the small projects collectively, if you did add up all of the estimated recycled water consumption listed here on this slide, we would have a total of 428 acre-feet per year. I would like to point out one item that the UTC pipeline is listed at 130 35 acre-feet per year, and they're going to be working up to that level. The next will be the estimated project costs for each project, and that's the column directly to the right. And so these costs include planning, design, construction, project management, CBMWD staff time, and associated PLA costs, and that's if they're applicable. The costs for each category are based off of a percentage of the estimated construction costs for each project, and construction costs per linear foot per inch of pipeline diameter are based off of numbers recently received by engineering consultants that district staff have been working directly with. And this has given staff a better idea of what costs are currently looking like for constructing a pipeline. The last column lists the funding source for small capital, which is district cash flow and reserves. And at this point, I will mention that each project will be brought before the board for consideration per district policies and procedures. The small capital projects together total approximately $5 million. And we will show detail on the spending schedule per fiscal year on the up-and-coming slide. And this is showing total costs for small projects identified to date, and this is for the 5-year plan.
Jackie, question.
Yes.
You may not have the information available right now, but as an example, the City Hall Montebello project.
Yes.
What is the payback period for that?
Oh, the payback period, I don't have it on me, but I could easily get it if I run
I'd like to
upstairs.
see the payback period for all of them. You don't
Okay.
have that for any of them?
I do. I could print out the file for you.
Or could
Yeah,
give
would
it
you
to
go
us?
back one slide also, please?
No, excuse me, could you
Yeah.
give it to us before the end of this meeting?
Before the end of this meeting?
Right.
Sure.
Let me know if you need to tell some jokes for a while.
That's what I was thinking about. Okay, thank you, Kevin. Okay. Did you want to look more at this slide, or?
How much recycled water would, oh, here it goes, okay. Okay, I see it.
Okay. Are there any more questions for this slide in particular?
Quick question. We identify the funding sources, cash flow or reserves. Director Osculi asked earlier about, have we met with any of these folks to ask if they're willing to contribute any part of this?
Go ahead. The only one that we've made mention so far is UTC, and that's because it's the only active project currently.
Usually they pay for all the on-site work that's required. And then it's a question of whether it's responsibility of the retail agency or us to put the distribution in. These all have attractive fast payback periods that appear to be a natural extension of our system as opposed to part of the local agency system.
Kevin, what do you mean by attractive, fast payback periods? Are you saying they're less than
For example,
3 years?
GC has a 3-year payback period or something.
Okay,
like that.
and the rest would be 3 years also, you think?
No, the rest are more like 4 or 5. They're actually, I believe they're in order of decreasing, as we prioritize the based by the payback. That's why the one at the end is, you can almost look at the cost versus the acre feet and get a feel for it. The one at the end is obviously the lowest payback. We'll get you the exact numbers, but that's, you can almost, because they're in that descending order. We pick the best ones first.
Would you also give me a copy of this presentation?
Yes, we can do that for sure.
Yeah, and if I can just make that request whenever we're reviewing a presentation that someone is giving, if we could have a copy of it.
What presentation are you talking about?
This one right here.
We have it in front of us.
What page is this?
This is on page 10.
Oh, okay, I'm way in front. Okay. Oh, okay, thank
Well,
you.
electronically, let's do it.
Oh, here it goes. Yeah, and then send it to me electronically. Okay, thank you.
Are there any questions for this slide? Okay. Oops. On this slide, we have an example, as Kevin mentioned earlier. We wanted to show what a small capital project looks like. This is the UTC pipeline located in the city of Santa Fe Springs. A design for this project will commence in the next week or so. We have GHD, whom is one of our on-call engineering consulting firms, working on this right now. And we are currently looking at constructing about 1,800 feet of 6-inch PVC pipeline. And this is for cooling purposes. And we'll bring you updates on this project. And again, this was just in the our presentation as an example. As I previously mentioned, this slide will show details on the spending schedule, and this is for the small capital projects 5-year plan. You will see the same projects listed here as you did in the previous table. However, instead of seeing the project costs in total, you will see how much spending is estimated for each small project over the 5-year term period. And these are estimates, of course. The line item in yellow is highlighting a change that we had made to this category. Specifically, the project in yellow was moved from large capital projects to small capital projects, and this was because it was estimated to be less than $1 million. The two yellow highlighted line items that you had saw in the large capital table were items that were moved from the small capital plan up to the large capital. The recent change, it was sort of a housekeeping method, so none of the costs or spending schedules changed between the two. And so the spending plan for small projects, this has been prioritized per payback period for each project, as Kevin mentioned. So the shorter the payback period, the more highly prioritized the project. The UTC project has the shortest return period, and as you can see, this is the first project that we are currently working on. And as the director mentioned, Montebello City Hall has the longest payback period, and so it has been shifted towards the end of the 5-year capital plan. And the number of projects was also, the numbers that you will see here listed, was also influenced by the district's strategic plan goals, staff size, and also by funding possibilities. And as you can see at the bottom of the slide, the goal for fiscal year 2017-2018 is to complete approximately $650,000 worth of the work for small capital projects. This next slide shows the same...
I have a question real quick, backing up, and Kevin as well. Kevin, I appreciate the comments about kind of the timing and the staging and how these have been presented to the board and how that process has worked. But Jackie, for you, just a quick question. As I go through these small projects, and your presentation is very thorough in covering how some small projects crept into the large project category, but how did we go about, and you may have covered this and maybe I missed it, but how do we go about coming up with these projects? In other words, how did we come up with a project generation? Is that something we do in-house? Have we done that using consultants in the past and then it sat on the shelf for a while? Or in essence, how are these born and how did they get to this point today is my question.
It's sort of a mixed cocktail of what you're saying. We have had recycled water plans done in the past which have identified certain projects, large capital.
Wood 12?
Right, correct. The most recent one was completed. In addition to that, we have Roman and Jordan and Donald working on identifying projects as well via GIS and looking at large anchor customers. And then we also have Joe Walters from Liberty who's helping Donald do that as well.
Okay.
So we do it in-house and also have consultants and also have plans that we've previously done.
Very good. So one follow-up.
We also have people come to us.
Okay, yeah.
So,
We do.
So it's a bit, we will identify, go to them, go to the retailers, go to the retailer, or we have them come to us and say we would like to.
So it's kind of a whole echelon of things that might be happening, and we're open to everything.
We try and first do a quick analysis of what the project is, and second, a quick payback analysis, detailed to see if it's worth pursuing.
Yeah. So just, I'm going to ask for your guys' observation on this. We're at a point in time, it's 2017. If we were to go back, say, 5 years ago and then 10 years ago, would the small capital project list look like this, or would it be much smaller than this, or did it exist? And I don't need a report, I don't want anything for the end of the meeting, but I'd just like to know, in this period of time, we've got 6 or 7 of these on the list. What did it look like 5 years ago? What did it look like 10 years ago?
From what I know, offhand, UTC is a new project. Mayberry Park, that pipeline has been looked into in the past. For Pico Rivera North, Lonnie has more details on that project. Norwalk City Hall is an older project that was identified in the past. Phelan Elementary is a new project. Joe and Donald helped us identify, along with Dan Arrighi, as Kevin mentioned. The Los Nietos Schools project is new, so you won't won't see that one in the past. Santa Fe Springs Park, this project was identified in the recent year prior because it used to be part of the Gateway Cities project, but it was removed because it's not considered a DAC community, but we kept hold of that one. And then the Montebello City Hall project was also something that was identified in the past.
And if you go back into the 2012, before up through 2013, there was 4 people in-house, an engineering consulting firm, sitting in the office here supposedly developing these projects.
Okay.
Very few were built.
Okay.
There was nothing built 13, 14, and 15.
Correct, not any expansion projects.
No expansion, just the replacement of the Caltrans project was the only engineering project. So we're now coming back after 4 years hiatus to do projects. Some of them were identified before, others are new ones.
Okay.
The other things come up was the heightened perception of the value of water because of the 5-year, 6-year drought that we went through has really created more demand than was 5 years ago. People are actually calling us and asking. Every community would like to have recycled.
And that's great. I think there's going to be more of that. Of course, the drought lifting will have an impact, and that's yet to be seen. But I guess, and I don't want to dwell on this too long, but if we go back, like to that 10-year, 15-year period, it doesn't seem like we have, a lot of these smaller projects that we had done, and then they fell aside for some reason, and now they've picked back up again. My sense is, based on your guys' response, is that we really weren't doing these projects 15 years ago, 10 years ago, to the same degree we're doing them now. Is that kind of your guys' perspective as well? Or could you look into that, maybe?
No, in a strategic plan, this is not just we decided, we actually in a strategic plan identified the growth of recycled water as a way to strengthen the reliability of the community. That mine, as we had input from the purveyors and from our board, and prioritized in order of the most economical first. And we had to do some big ones to expand it also. And so we're trying to maybe do a little too much at once, but these small projects like this are the lifeblood of the district. They should have been done continually every year. You will have to. Should be a process, and we're doing a better job now of identifying, prioritizing, moving them forward. And I think as you saw in the prior report, last engineering committee, we have one project coming online every month for the rest of the year. Small ones, but they're coming online.
In essence, that's all generated and worked upon by internal forces.
That's right.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Jack and Kevin, quick question. In the case of Montebello, I don't know the 19 or 20 acre feet that was calculated or estimated. When was it done? Was it a few years back, or?
For this particular, actually for most of them are located in the previous facilities plan update, but we've had Joe Walters from Liberty and Donald go back through those and do updated estimates.
And for a final estimate, before we actually go to hard costs and anything, we actually use the water consumption facility for the prior, 3 years?
Right.
3 years.
Okay.
So we work on
Because I know in the case of City of Montebello, the City Hall, there is so much you could do in order to save, unless there's a cooling tower that they can use the water for that I'm not aware of, but mostly it's for landscaping, right? There's so much they can do in there because the landscaping is rather limited in any case. But let's say that they became very conscious about conservation of water, and they got some money from another grant funding, and the pipeline was in place, we put it in place, and all of a sudden they decide to go into native landscaping and take the grass out and everything else, and they're not going to be using 19, 20 acres of water every year. Have you any thought on that?
Those are the situations that we work with to avoid because we can't have it. We cannot control what another governmental agency will do to change the politics. We don't have take-or-pay contracts, which is the other way you would normally try and control that type of situation. So we try and make sure, and I think if you remember, Sandy gave a good presentation a couple of meetings ago about which of these city halls and the parks are projected to be done water conservation approach, and which ones we're reserving for recycled water approach. So we avoid a conflict there. But you just gotta, we're trying to be cautious, and as we go through these, we're trying to work with like UTC has been great to work with. They want the water, we want retail agency's been cooperative, everything's been working very well. We don't anticipate a problem other than, again, UTC is a private company, they could go out of business in 5 years. Those are part of the risk of doing business. But we do try and screen them, and, particularly as we get down to ones that are larger than.
And we do get a letter of intent from each one also as well.
Yeah, we get it, but it's not binding.
Right.
Letter of intent.
It's not binding. Are there any more questions for this slide? Okay. For this slide, this shows the same level of detail for the repair and replacement, or R&R 5-year plan. This item, or the items listed in this table, are related to the existing recycled water distribution system, and you'll see quite a lot of items here. This list was generated by district staff, a study completed by Hazen and Sawyer for the Rio Hondo Pump Station, and also with the help of Liberty Utilities. This list is what we have been able to identify to date, and that will eventually need to be taken care of. Of course, there will be more items that, pop up in the future that we will keep track of. The items in yellow highlight some changes that have been made to this budget, and the changes consist of reprioritizing needs according to risk. And those items that were found to be at a lower risk of failure were shifted out to later years, and the line items that have been identified to be at a higher risk of failure have been kept in fiscal year 2017-2018. What we have also been doing is attempting to balance the cost of the big ticket items, which may catch your attention as well. An example of this is currently under fiscal year 18-19, and this is for rebuilding or replacing the VFDs and large pumps at Rio Hondo Pump Station, which are close to 25 years old. Another example are the transformers at Rio Hondo Pump Station. Conditions assessments document that they are in pretty bad shape and need to be replaced. And so items such as that are kept in fiscal year 17-18, and as it stands now, the estimated costs total $570,000 for repair and replacement.
So Jackie, this would be a part and parcel of the contract that you're going with an RFP for, right?
This is not part of the $100,000 repair and replace budget that was set aside that's related to the RFP. These are separate items.
But the last item on your list is that, actually. You look at your list there.
Right.
The last item is the placeholder for the $100,000 that'll be in that contract. But even that $100,000 is just to give the contractor a feel for the size of the activities that are doing.
Right.
Companies to us to come back to.
So they can give you a appropriate bid, in essence.
And the line items on here are much higher in cost, and so the 100 would be for the smaller items. Are there any questions on repair and replacement?
On the first one, Jackie, the $1 million in 18-19, is that about $500,000 for each pump?
Well, the
approximately
$650,000 is for one pump and one VFD, and then the additional costs that were added in with that item are for electrical upgrades that are needed. If you can see over, and I have glasses on, but anyway, I'll get it here. In fiscal year 19-20, if you'll see the $650,000, that's for the second pump and VFD after all the electrical upgrades are completed. So we're doing one at a time.
So 18-19 is just one pump.
One pump.
Drive, and then 19-20 is a different pump.
Correct. Are there any additional questions? Okay, this next category for CIP is for recycled water customer development, which are for new service connections for recycled water. To explain how we got these numbers, we have each year budgeted with an escalation. Because each connection is very unique in nature, it is difficult to say how much each one will be for planning, and it is also difficult to anticipate external influence factors that would be delaying the connections or expediting them. And so what we have done for this is estimated retrofit retrofit costs for on-site work to be $10,000 per site, and service connection costs to bring service to a new meter from the main line in the street to be $20,000. We have it working at from 4 site connections per year to 12 starting in fiscal year 18-19. And the line item for as needed set at $25,000. This was what was anticipated to be used for a consultant's help with the on-site retrofit design plans. And the item highlighted in yellow is calling attention to a recent change in this plan. The number that used to be under fiscal year 17-18 for on-site retrofits, it was $60,000, and that was for an estimated 6 sites. We eliminated that amount from the budget, assuming that we are being reimbursed for costs for on-site retrofit needs, and this is by either the Metropolitan Water District Recycled Water Retrofit Program that they currently have, or site owners. And so what we did after that is we left those costs in for the following fiscal years, and this is because we have no guarantee if the MET funding will still be available for our use or if the site owner funding will be available. And so previous costs were at $205,000, and the current budget now is set at $145,000. Are there any questions for this slide? Okay.
Jackie, let me ask you a question. You said you didn't budget anything for the highlighted item for 17-18 because you have money from MET and because you have a commitment from the property owner?
We're anticipating money from MET, and we're hoping for commitment from the property owners. So there's still more sites that we're looking to connect this year.
In general, the property owner is responsible for the on-site.
Correct.
So we have an occasion where there's a thing that's beneficial to us. We're going to be contributing to that. Normally an expectation that when we get funded by the MET, that's with a couple I've got right now with the MET, that gives you up to $950 per acre foot.
I believe that's right.
Yeah. So if you have a 10-acre foot site, you get $9,500, which is about what it takes. So that's the plan on that. Normally we don't get involved in doing those.
Okay. Any additional questions? Okay. I will turn it over to Albert. Thank you.
Good morning, directors. You're currently looking at the replacement plan for our IT infrastructure. We made some adjustments to the plan. We originally had all these items in 1 year, and we've spread them out over the 2 years. Some things to keep in mind when we look at this: we don't just replace our equipment just because we say it's time to replace it. We typically look at the equipment lifespan and the availability of support contracts to support those items. If I can't get a support contract on a piece of hardware, that's when we usually typically look at replacing it, or when it's no longer useful for the organization. As you can see through the items, these are pretty standard items. Our servers are the most important items. They control the entire infrastructure of the district, as well as our storage area network. Those two work together to provide all our data storage. The other 3 items: switches, desktops, printers, and monitors. I've had these items in here to give an example, specifically printers. The same printers we have on site for every user we've had on site since 2006. So we don't just replace it just because we want to. We typically replace it when it's no longer have a useful life. Are there any questions, directors?
No question.
Thank you.
So, a quick summary of where I'm going to tell jokes for a minute while Jackie goes and gets the calculations. No, I'll do the wrap-up issues. A summary of where we've been, what we're going to be putting in the budget for this year. For small capital projects, as we went over, $650,000. These are all projects with very good payback capability. Repair and replacement are the most urgent ones that we need to do. She mentioned a report that we had done by Hazen and Sawyer. They analyzed the pumps for us and the condition of all the things. Very detailed, very highly technical report. And based upon that, we were able to prioritize which items were closest to failure. We're trying to get more sophisticated in how we approach this. Customer development, we have money in there for that, and information and technology. It totals up to about $1.4 million. And again, this is proposed to be funded by district reserves and cash flow. Now, our current budget for next year, when you look at the initial budget, shows at this time about $1.7 million in cash flow, but that does not include the principal payment of about $1.2 million. So there's about $500,000 in cash flow that's generated. The balance of this would come from reserves. We're still tweaking the budget. We've had some positive things that will make the savings of possibly $100,000 higher, and also improve the debt coverage ratio a bit. But we'll still be looking at about $1.3 million minus whatever cash flow we have that we would be investing this year. Now, is that sustainable in the long run? Not necessarily. We are going to have to. We still meet all of the financial guidelines in terms of days of reserves in place, etc. We'll still be in the good category on that. We'll still be meeting our debt covenant ratios. But this will be the last year that we'll be able to do this. And as I mentioned to you before, I will be coming to the board next year about a new revenue source, which is going to be necessary if we're going to continue to build out the rest of the CIP. Even if we don't do any large capital, just for the replacement of the system. So anyway, that's what's going to be in the budget right now. Absent any advice from the board right now. The process for the budget, I will write up a detailed narrative of the budget over the next week, so you will get it a week ahead of the board meeting. And it will include, any revisions to the budget that you've seen before this as a one report, and then the detailed budget report that we do every year. This will be a little more succinct than last year's. It's a bit flowery, but we'll be brief and to the point, and exactly what's in the budget, why it's in the budget, the assumptions behind the revenue estimates, etc. So, and that'll go out with the board packet week before the board meeting, and again, we'll bring you the budget for approval in May. If there are enough concerns, we can have another workshop and put it off till June, although I wouldn't recommend that. Any questions on anything on the process of what we're doing?
Yes, Kevin, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes.
Kevin, what is the projected year-end balance for the reserves?
Right now, it's about 13-point-some-odd million. We just did the financials. Do you remember it was 13? We have, 16 million total right now, which 2.7 is restricted. So we had a good month last month, so we're up to about 14. But I think the year-end balance will be 12.5 to 13 million.
Okay. So, and then from there, we're going to take out about 1.4.
Yeah, we're about $1 million. We still have the cash flow to contribute. Yeah.
For the following year.
Yeah.
Do we have a reserve policy
Yes, we do.
adopted?
Yes, I'll get you that.
Yeah, is that a certain percentage of the operating cost or operating revenue, or what is the formula? Do we know?
Well, we have two, and again, Director Hawkins, I'll get right to you because Director Hawkins had a question. One is when we identify the reasons for reserved, and that totaled up to about 10 million, and the rest was free. And the other one was the guidelines that the former CFO put together, which is to stay above the 90 days operating revenue, which is the guideline for good. So I think right now we're about 113 days. That sound about right? Yeah, 113 days of reserves, and so the idea is to stay above 90 in it. So, but I'll get you copies of both of those.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Director Hawkins, you had a question, sir?
At the last meeting, I asked for a copy of the unfunded liability, how we're doing on that. And
yes.
I'd still like to get a copy of that.
Yeah,
and then to piggyback off of what the director just said there, I would also like to see some kind of and I don't know if I'm going to use the right words, line item, budget, set aside or something for repairs and replace of a percentage, because we haven't done that in the past, it's been hit and miss as we go. And I know we have some pumps that are way past their life expectancy, and we're going to have to replace those. And to try to take those out of pay-go as we go, we always suffer somewhere. And I'd like to see how to put something like that. And I think he just hit on the point of maybe a percentage of our income, and it comes first, not at the other end. It comes first. We do that set aside as one of our first things, not as one of our last things.
Good points. With regard to the first one, we've actually been trying to get the lady who does the projections on old pavement. Were we going to have a presentation on the?
Yes, we're looking at June at the Finance Committee.
We're looking at the June Finance Committee, if that's soon enough.
Next week?
Not next week in June, the first week in June.
First week in June, if that would work. It'll be after the board meeting. And again, before that, we'll be glad to get you with the information that we have, the latest actuarial.
This is just for my knowledge, because we can't do anything about it right now.
Yeah,
But that's
it is.
just for my knowledge on that.
And I mentioned, I believe there was an article in the paper today about the CalPERS liability. With regard to the repair replacement, one of the things that we do have in the budget still is asset management. We have $100,000 in there for asset management that we were trying to do in conjunction with this. We pulled it out, but you're right. In asset management, they'll normally first you prioritize, but it does come down to if you got a system which we have, which is worth $60 million, $50 to $60 million undepreciated, then it's not unreasonable to spend 1% of that a year at least on your repair replacement, which happens to be where you are this year for the first time at $650,000. But I think that gave us a feel. I will say that the initial reaction, because we just had this study done on that one pump station. We have other pump, and that's our biggest area of risk is the pump stations. The pipelines are not as, you don't replace a pipeline easily. They normally last longer than the manufacturer's suggested life, but pumps can go at any time. But the pump station, that's just one. We still have two others that are operating that we have to look at. So.
Kevin, our debt service obligation the exposure is going to increase starting in 2018. 2018 to the tune of about $1 million from where we are today. And in 2021 is going to go up quite a bit. Is that?
Our debt service?
Yeah.
No, our debt service should be level. We refinanced the bonds so that our debt service should be about 3.3. Principal and interest combined about 3.3 million going forward, plus or minus 100,000 for different various. But we did have it spiking at 1.4 next year, and that's why we did the refinance of the bonds in August, rather in November. But we should not have any significant increases in our debt service.
Okay.
If you're looking at the CAFR, that was done for last year, and that was done prior to the refinancing of the bonds, but it should have a section about the refinancing.
So the chart that I see, page 47 of the CAFR, was done before?
I don't have that in front of me. Do you? Excuse me, Director, if I could just take a quick look.
Sure. Yes, chart right.
So I'm trying to see where the total principal and interest was paid for this up here.
This is total right here. That's 2021 going to 2026.
Yeah, we're not, again, those are not the actual.
So we flat this out.
Yeah, we flattened it out. But I'll get you, we can get you an actual, the revised projections because we have them. What they did when they refinanced is they flattened out the peak that was going from 1.4 million, then it dropped down, and so there's no principal payments on the 216 bonds until 5 years out, and then the principal comes in. So we have about a $3.4 million a year payment for principal and interest, fairly steady out for the next 15 years. Is that about right, Doreen?
Yeah, the 2016 bonds director, the purpose of it was to actually bring down the stock of himself.
Yeah.
After the reporting, sorry.
Okay.
Director, I'm sorry, when we refunded the 2016 bonds, it was for the purpose of bringing down the spike in the increase of the bonds. So our CAFR does not include the implementation of the 16 bonds. You're going to see that in this upcoming year's CAFR report. So it's totally leveled off. You're not going to see the spike, and that was the sole purpose of bringing in the 16 bonds.
So if I could see a chart similar to what it is in this CAFR, that is with this new information, I would appreciate that.
Okay.
Just to take a look at it.
It should be in the bond prospectus.
Yes.
Yeah, we should have that in the bond.
Yeah, you should have it in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
The papers, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, we can get you that right after the meeting.
Kevin, I have a number of comments to make regarding the budget, because the pace at which you're moving is pretty quick, and I don't know that anyone's really giving you direction on the budget. It seems like what you're proposing, it seems like you're not really hearing too much from the board in terms of how they feel about it. And from my perspective, I've got a number of comments. First, regarding this last slide on the CIP, I think it's very appropriate to do all of the repair and replace as proposed for the maintenance of the recycled water system. I think that is something that's absolutely needed, and that's something that we should be doing on an annual basis. On the small capital projects, I think there can be some reduction there. I don't buy all that, and until I see the payback, I'm very concerned about how much money is going out. Overall, I think the total revenues, I don't think we should be budgeting for replenishment water, because replenishment water can be taken off the table at any time with what's going on with the Quagga mussel issue, and that's $1.7 million. I know there's a letter that's being worked on right now, but until I see a mitigation plan that the county agrees to, that if quagga mussels are found, and you can mitigate that, and they'll allow the water to continue to be put in the ground, replenishment water can be taken off the table at any time. Secondly, I think our expenses are high. I think there's a lot of things we're doing that I think staff should reconsider that. I think we need to go forward with getting our costs down, and we need to start going forward next year. Whatever contracts we have that we can't get out of, okay, I get that. But everything should be looked at much more diligently than what's being looked at now. And so I'm not in agreement with the proposed budget as it is.
Absent, and I'm trying to put this appropriately, absent sitting down and going with you line item by line item to tell me where you think we are spending, we actually have controlled costs significantly and made significant reductions as we've gone through this budget compared to prior years and before that, and just good business practice. With regard to the contracts that we have and why we're doing, and again, this is the contingency plan. If I thought there was a high probability that we would not have replenishment water, you would see a totally different budget. You would see, but because there's a 10% chance, I would be doing a disservice to the district to budget that way. It doesn't mean I don't have a contingency plan of how I would adapt if it came to that. The process to, and that's where the real crisis comes in. The process to get to that is, right now we have hints of quagga on the state project. No real quagga, hints of quagga. And it's a steady thing. The county is very cautious about it. There's a study being done right now by Upper St. Gabriel using Roy Wolf, the former head of operations of Met, to work with the county. There's a option that I talked about 2 years ago. We weren't even looking for a state project that time. We wanted to get to use Colorado River. If we have to use it with quagga, why can't we use it in the county things? And I get a little more technical than you want, but the reason that you can't is that there are certain portions of the county channels where we do it that don't dry up because of the urban runoff that comes in. Our plan was to go down there and identify how to treat that. Now, in the event, just right now, that the quagga mussel issue persists, I'll probably be coming to the board in June or July with authorization to cut some of this and reallocate it to help solve the quagga mussel issue. I believe there's a practical situation to solving that. It's been done elsewhere. The issue with the county is they are very, and Director, our attorney will tell you that, they are very, very cautious on this issue. They don't understand it. They don't want to have the problem in their waterways. We understand that. So it's a question of how do we mitigate that risk and negotiate through that. Met is putting resources into it. Other agencies like Upper St. Gabriel and WRD are doing it. So I'm not, if I thought there was a high probability, you'd see a totally different budget and a lot less people.
I understand.
But in terms of that, but in terms of the budget going forward and what we're doing, every project should stand on its benefit-cost ratio thing. I thank you very much for agreeing on the repair replacement. And like I said, every one of these small capital projects will come to the board as it goes through. If you see one in there that you don't think should be in the thing for this year, please let us know. But we're trying to pick the high priority ones right now. So, but I think I don't want to be too sensitive, but I do believe that if you look in detail, still trying to do our mandate of what we are agreed to do, both when we were formed, when we've operated over the last 50 years, and when we did our strategic plan, and living up with the goals we set down there, that's what this budget sets out to do. If we would need to change that, then that's a separate process.
I don't doubt that this budget is seeking to do all that. I'm not questioning that. What I'm questioning is the amount of revenue stream that we're generating, and that is drying up.
Absolutely.
And I don't see you looking at that as serious as it's coming. And we have a distinct difference on this quagga mussel issue. It's not even quagga mussels, it's Invasive Species Act, and the county will not cross that line with any invasive species. I was at a meeting yesterday, and Ed Hills from San Gabriel Municipal Water District gave a very detailed report on a recent finding about this. And in a presentation, there are certain designations that the quagga mussel is in the state water in certain portions. It's there. They've confirmed that it's there. So this is coming. So it's not a matter of whether it's there or not. It's a matter of whether or not the county will agree to a mitigation plan. If they agree to a mitigation plan, then when and if they find it, we can still push water. If they don't agree to that plan, when and if they find it, and it's right around the corner, the water will be shut off, and you will not be able to deliver replenishment water. So if you don't calculate that into your budget, and you can purchase that water, great, you've got extra money. But if you do calculate that into your budget and you can't deliver it, then you've got to look for another $1.7 million.
And our operating budget is small enough that $1.7 million is about 20% of the budget. When you take out the fixed costs for buildings and bond payments and stuff like that, we're looking at a budget of about 9%. $9 million, you're looking at about 20% of the budget.
Without that $1.7 million, you are not positive. You're in the red.
And I will tell you this, Director, though, a year ago, 2.5 years ago when I came here, was when the precipitate decline in potable water was going on. We hadn't and also in recycled water was going down because of the drought. Mm-hmm. We figured out a way through that. I've told the board consistently that our current financial system is not viable going forward, that whether we get next year or not, 2 years out, we'll be down to 6,000 acre feet of replenishment. 3 years out, it'll be hit and miss, depending on the weather. So we cannot count on that, and that is a $1.7 million hit. We have, at the same time, we have the equity issues, so there are certain people in our service area that do not buy potable water from us, do not buy recycled water from us, but guess what? They benefit from our representation at MET, they benefit from our school program, they benefit from our conservation program, they benefit from our outreach program on water issues. So there's an equity issue there to be dealt with going forward, and I have proposals on how we do that. And I think that's the debate the board will have over the next year. If, regardless of whether the quagga is next year, by the year after that, the replenishment water will be gone, one way or the other.
And there's another equity issue that I think the board should be discussing before we move forward with a lot of these CIP projects. I think we should look at what point in time we have to tell the customer they've got to come up with the money, because we don't have it. rather than the district constantly reaching in their own pocket to pay for this. At one time, Kevin, the philosophy from this agency was build it at any expense because we want to develop recycled water. I think now the philosophy is, well, we still want recycled water, but we can't afford to extend the mains and pay for all that if we're not going to get a return on investment. I don't think they were looking at the return on investment at the time. And so you've got to take a look at, and now you guys are doing that. That's something that you're doing in your calculation. But at what point in time do we say we've got to walk away from it? Do we wait 5, 7, 8, 10 years for a return on investment? Or do we only wait 3? And after 3, then it says, we tell the customer, you know what, you're going to have to put some skin in the game, get some skin in the game, because we can't afford this. It may be we want it, once the board discusses this, it may be we want a 3-year return on investment and we'll pony up all the money. But if anything after that, we may want to look at a percentage of the customer putting money in. Now that might scare people away, but it's a way of dealing with all these projects and not putting out all this money that, as you heard today, we may think we're going to sell 100 acre feet and something comes up, the person goes out of business or says, you know what, we're only going to take 50 acre feet. I don't know that we're looking at it that way, Kevin.
Actually, all kidding aside, we are, because one of the things we did, for example, is the projections. Mm-hmm. Projections used to be done by some industry standards, except we don't do that. We look at the actual water sales. Mm-hmm. Those are factual numbers that you can say, okay, if you're getting a park with 20 acre feet a year in potable, and we replace it with recycle, we should expect a demand of 20 acre feet a year. So we're trying to get those down to be reasonable. Our analysis from that, but you're right, there will be cases where it simply doesn't pencil out for us to do it, and that's why we have in our funding sources partnerships. Whether the partnership is with a private company that invests, or whether it's a public agency that invests, both of those are feasible. We will spend a lot of time in the next year negotiating on some of these. The larger projects in particular, a good example is frankly where we are in the Montebello project. Before that's done, the developer came to us, said, I will pay for the entire design and half the cost of construction if you'll pay for the other half of construction. We penciled that out, and that looks like a very good deal. Now, we don't have that signed up yet because of the sale, but if they came back with that thing today, the board would have a tough decision. But there is, I do want you to be sure, we are watching the pennies very carefully here, and I am very cognizant of the Quagga issue, and I am working on a contingency plan of what happens if July 1, even though we adopt the budget, July 1 we find out there will be no replenishment sales, and I'll have a budget revised in my hip pocket for you for that.
Just one last comment. I do think the analysis of the projects is far better than it was before. I agree with you on that. I think the one thing that came up today that I think should have already been done or needs to be done is I think that there should be some kind of a contract commitment from the customer, or at least consider it, that we're footing the bill for this. You're committed to taking so much water. I don't know if that can be done, but it's probably something that should be talked about and evaluated. I don't know if we want to give that to our attorney to do, but it should be something to take a look at. And then what staff can do is see if other agencies do that, have done that, and if we find that they've done that, we can use that template. Then we can move forward. It would give at least me a little more comfort that we've really looked under all the rocks and checked all of the boxes and we've gone as far as we can. So
that's a very good idea. I know Donald and Joe have been pushing for something like this, and I've been saying I'm not sure if they'll do it, but we'll do that survey. We'll take it to the engineering committee, do the survey, do the options, and then we take it to the board to have a discussion about the different options that are out there. But because we're in a partnership with our retail agencies and with their customers, I mean, we don't sell water directly to a customer. We sell it to the retail agency. The retail agency then sells it to their customer, and their rules and regulations apply. So it's very hard to prescribe this, but we can certainly do what we can to make sure that there's a high degree of probability that they will use what we're building.
Kevin, what precludes us from selling the water directly to the customer? Because I know we sell water to, for example, we sell water to the city of Linwood. Why can't we sell water directly to, recycled water directly to
Because you're a
the city of
wholesaler.
Linwood?
You're a wholesaler, you're not a retailer.
Right.
And you have to be a retailer to sell it to the customer.
To sell recycled water?
Absolutely.
Yeah, there are some examples.
know that.
There's certain exemptions that have come out, but in general, the retail agency has a exclusive, in California law, has an exclusive franchise for water service to that territory. If they're not serving recycle and they have no intention of serving recycle, then sometimes you could go in and do that. But that's a very rare situation.
Okay.
So normally, our relationship isn't, and that's why it's always tough as a retail agency, because you have two masters. You have the public that elects you, and you have the 40 agencies that buy our 41 category plans that buy our services day to day. We don't have a direct relationship with the customer.
So, I'm a little confused. The city of Southgate, I know that they've purchased recycled water from us directly, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Well, almost all of them do. I'm trying to think. There's one or two examples where there might be a industrial, like there's a golf course, Rancho Los Amigos Golf Course. We supply directly.
Okay, but it's not.
Unincorporated County Terry doesn't have a retail
It's a county
agency.
property. It's
Okay.
county in the jurisdiction of the
Okay.
city of Delhi in that
Okay.
case.
Yeah.
So whatever, I think Golden State is in Southgate? So whatever, is that correct?
No, I think
Is there a private water company in Southgate?
No, I think it's the
Okay,
city,
let me use
city of
Linwood.
Southgate. Yeah, they were.
Okay, let me use Linwood as an example, because I know in the city of Linwood, what is it, Liberty Utilities sells, or has a portion of the city, they're a retailer there. So we could not sell recycled water to the areas that are serviced by Liberty, is that correct?
That's right. We would sell
Right.
it to Liberty, and they would sell it.
Right, but to the areas that are serviced by the city, then we could sell.
We would sell it to the city.
To the city,
and
right,
the city
okay.
would. Now, the city may also be the customer if it's a city park. That's
Right.
a different relationship. But in general,
I
we
see.
sell it to the city, and they would actually sell it to the school district, for example.
Oh, okay,
Yeah. Okay. Jackie, I see you're back.
Yes, I printed out.
okay.
Okay, you might give them to the.
Kevin, what
Give
is that,
Maggie.
please?
Always go through Maggie. Otherwise, I get beat up.
While Maggie's distributing the copies,
Excuse me.
I said, while she's distributing the copies,
Yes, sir.
you took the words out of my mouth that we have to watch every penny. With regards to this particular budget, I have some recommendations for consideration, of course. One would be to take a look at several of the contracts. They are small in amounts, but just for us, thank you, to take a look at it. One is a strategic planning consulting, which is about 30 grand. One is, the grant consultant at the last communications committee meeting. We said we're going to take a look at that. Another one is the consultant for educational presentations, $116,000. The Edison lease, we talked about that. We need to take a look. Also, I would like to propose a hiring freeze with the exception of the Director of Finance until we take a look to see what's going to happen to us before July 1 as far as the issues that were just discussed. I would definitely like to take a look at the OPEB. I'm concerned about our commitments to OPEB. And the last thing is I would also recommend for us to set up an ad hoc committee to take a look at the director's compensation.
Well, I can take them. Does it order the strategic plan we have looked at before? The options on that, and I'll take them to the board. One would be to simply do strategic plan light, do an update, bring in the consultant instead of $30,000 for $10,000 as a facilitator. Could we do it ourselves? Absolutely. Both Dean and I could do it, but it's better if you have an outside person. But with significant savings there, I think. But I could do it if you need. The grant consultant, one of the things we didn't make clear last time, and I apologize, the grant consultant is not just writing grants and doing it. He does act as our de facto lobbyist. And with regard to the Gateway grant, what is complicated is that we're jumping the queue here because of the situation. So that's when I'd be very reluctant at this time to reduce our efforts on. I think it's our future.
And I get that,
Yeah.
but when the question was asked, do we have a need for an advocate at the state capitol? The answer was no. But at that time, I didn't know that this consultant is a hybrid. We use it
Yeah.
for grant writing and for that. So again, it's under discussion. I don't need an answer right now. These are some things that I just suggested.
With regard to the easement of Edison, and frankly, also, since you volunteered, sir, I'm going to get your advice if I can on the one we have with LA Department of Water and Power, which is just for us, we sell $35,000 worth of water, and the easement cost us $32,000 for that little branch. So we're losing money on it. Hiring freeze. Again, that's something we'll discuss with the board. I presume that in addition to the Director of Finance, I have one other person who has given their notice. They've been recruited by another agency. So
This will be in addition to the 35 points. 25.48, yeah.
Okay.
So no new positions.
Yeah, no, that's fine. We replace others. We have, like I said, we have been very cautious in getting new full-time bodies in here. And the third is that a part-time intern and retired annuitants are much easier to terminate the relationship than a full-time employee. So, and the OPEB is something that bothers us. It's going up, and there's nothing we can do about it. With regard, Director Apodaca, your board president, do you wish to form an ad hoc committee on director compensation?
Ad hoc committee on what now?
Director Skewy asked that we form an ad hoc committee on director compensation.
Well, I guess if that's the concern of the directors, sure, I have no problem.
I mean, we have one ad hoc committee that we would like to do, which has to do with real estate, we'll call it, in real estate management. But this one would be on director compensation. It's up to you to select who your committee members are. And
well, in that case, there's only, I like somebody who has a broader history than myself, or the same. I believe that Director Hawkins would be that person.
On which one? On the director compensation?
What would this committee be for?
Compensation.
Compensation.
On the directors.
Okay, and who else would be with?
Well, I don't know that yet.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it needs somebody,
on
the
both sides,
members don't know enough about that.
Yeah, I believe when we were looking at the ill-fated committee to review the GM, I believe the idea was to get one from each faction of the board, and I think that process would work very well. But
That's right.
It's your prerogative to come up with whoever you wish on that.
But excuse me, Kevin, that process did not work. So that's not
It only works if all three parts participate
exactly, that template did not work.
at this time, but maybe it will on this one. I'm the eternal optimist, Director. Okay. But thank you, Director Skew. We will take all of these into advisement and give you written
As
responses.
far as the OPEB is concerned, I think, again, I'm relying on the CAFR. It says that the contribution requirements of plan members and the district are established and may be amended by the board. So there is a potential of having some amendments to that.
Yes, I'd like to add with regard to the OPEB that there's some new GASB rules coming on in effect. One of them is GASB 75, which requires the board to actually formulate a policy. I just got this information yesterday, so we're looking at that with our actuary who talked to Kevin about that too, so that we can bring that to the board. But there would be a funding policy that the board would set for OPEB. So that's for GASB 75.
And is OPEB the one we're 75% funded right now?
For both CalPERS pension.
Oh, both were 75?
Yes,
Okay.
75%.
Okay, we used to be higher for OPEB.
Thank you.
Any other comments, Director? Director Gedney? No. Director Reheda?
No.
Director Vasquez? Director Hawkins, any other questions? Director Apodaca? Thank you very much. It's good input.
Thank you, Kevin.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Director's comments, anybody have any? If not, meeting's adjourned.
Actually, I do have one comment. We have a new face in the audience, and I just want to have Kevin introduce him. I don't think I've seen this young man. I think he's our intern.
I'm Jordan. I'm the GIS intern.
Jordan is a master's, for your master's degree?
Yes, I'm working on my master's degree at Cal Poly right now.
Excellent.
And Jordan is the reason we were able to so good at GIS, we were able to do away with the GIS consultant. Expertise of Roman's development, his expertise, we actually did away with the GIS consultant, we saved about $25,000.
Thank you. Welcome.
Wonderful.